Hello everyone and welcome to the 2019 Championship Showdown Chess 960 edition, or the Chess 9LX edition as they're calling it. It's day 2 and it's Fabiano Caruana versus Garry Kasparov. Again, Fabi with the white pieces, Kasparov with the black pieces. Somehow those games seem to be the most enjoyable ones. And after day 1, Kasparov had a lot of promising positions, but in the end he was only able to get a draw out of 4 games. Caruana won the other 3, and day 2 started similar. In the 2 rapid games, Kasparov outplayed Caruana in both rapid games, but in the end scored only half a point out of those rapid games. And this is now the first game of the Blitz section. So let's check it out and see what happened there. So in this game, in the rapid game, Caruana tried with b4. That game ended in a draw. But here for the Blitz section, we have e4 by Caruana, which is quite funny since this is Chess 960. But also I forgot to mention, if some of you don't know, before they start playing, both players get an hour to analyze the starting position. So the starting position from day 2 is different than the starting position from day 1, and they each have a helper to help them. So Kasparov is analyzing with Peter Svidler 1 hour before the game start, and Fabiano Caruana is analyzing with Levon Aronian. So let's continue. e4, we have b6 by Kasparov, and now e5. Let me just fix that. We have d6 now by Kasparov, and the knight g to f3. We have d captures on e5, knight captures by Caruana, and now knight to d6, nicely developing, also guarding the f7 square. You don't want to allow knight f7 check. We have d4 by Caruana, and now again f6. Seems like Kasparov is playing f6 in every game. We have knight back to f3, and now g5 by Kasparov, preparing g4. We have queen to e3, and now Kasparov takes advantage of Fabi developing the queen on e3 to play knight to h6. Now the knight can come to f5, and this will come with an attack on the white queen. We have a queenside castle by Caruana, and now knight to f5 as planned. Queen to a3, and now g4. So of course Fabi plays knight e5. Capturing would only help white. For example, if captures, you cannot move the knight due to the pin, and this would be okay for white. But here Kasparov finds a very interesting idea, which basically wins a pawn. Knight captures on d4, rook captures, and pawn captures on e5 now. So now Kasparov has doubled pawns with his king still in the center, but he's not afraid of the position. We have rook back to d1, and now bishop to h6. This comes with check, and with this Kasparov prepares the castle kingside now. We have king to b1, and now Kasparov castles kingside. And it seems weird when you look at castling in Chess 960, but yeah, you still, when you castle kingside, your king and rook go into the same position where the king and rook would be in a classical chess game. So castles, and now b3. Caruana opens up the dark square bishop, and bishop back to g7. Kasparov is ready now to defend the e5 pawn and to counter Fabiano's dark square bishop. And here f3 by Caruana. h3 seems interesting. You want to capture here and open up your h file for the rook, but here black can either push g3 and not allow you to open it, or just play rook captures on f2, and after captures, queen captures on g4, and the black's development is much better and much more useful than white's semi-open h file. So after bishop g7, f3 by Caruana, and now comes queen to f5, piling up on the f3 square. We have bishop to e2, and now even e4. E4 is an excellent move because it prevents this knight from ever being developed. Well, not ever, but for a very long time. And since this is a blitz game, that's basically ever. We have bishop captures, king captures, and now f captures on g4. Attacking the queen, and now queen to e5. Still, this pawn is nicely standing here. The knight cannot be developed. Fabiano cannot connect his rooks. And now queen captures on a7. With Kasparov's lead in development, Fabi decides it's okay to capture a pawn. Is it okay? Well, let's see what Kasparov plays. With bishop to b7, now with ideas of kicking away the queen with rook to a8, or even trapping the queen. So Caruana has to move the queen away. We have queen to a4 and now rook to f2. Now Kasparov is preparing rook b to f8 to double up on the f file. So the bishop is under attack. You have to do something about this. We have bishop to f1 by Caruana and now rook b to f8 going after the bishop. And the point is that the bishop cannot be saved. If you play, you can't go here, you can't go here, you can't go here. If you try bishop to a6, you're getting bishop captures on a6, queen captures and knight b5. And there's no defense against knight c3 check. Whatever you play, and really there is no good move to play here. You still can't move the knight. You can play rook d7, but then knight c3 check, and after king c1 you're just gonna get knight d1, and there's very little you can do against queen e1 mate, queen a1 mate. Even capturing results in the same mate as the rook controls the second rank. So here you would just, after this knight to d1 move, have to lose a lot of material, and in the end it would all be over. So after rook b to f8 with bishop to d3, Caruana finds the strongest move recommended by the engine. And now, okay, if Kasparov grabs the piece right away, you get knight captures, and now the queen and rook are under attack. Queen e2, let's say you capture, rook captures on f2, and Caruana wanted to play this position having a rook for a knight and the bishop. Kasparov is still better, but Kasparov does not grab the piece right away. After bishop to d3, Kasparov goes queen to c5. Now this is a much stronger idea, as the bishop still has nowhere to go. And the problem is now after captures and knight captures, you're getting queen captures on c2, as the rook and queen are now both attacking the c2 pawn. So rook to c1, Caruana defends, and now rook to a8, bringing the rook into the attack now. Queen to d7, going after the e7 pawn, and now rook back to f7, defending while also attacking. Here Kasparov is threatening bishop to c8, which will trap Caruana's queen. Queen to e6, preparing to run away with the queen, but it's not working. Bishop to c8 still, and Caruana doesn't really have a good square for the queen. So he plays b4. He wants to give up the b4 pawn, so he can retreat to b3, but Kasparov says that will not work. Bishop captures on e6 by Kasparov, b captures on c5, and now e captures on d3, just grabbing that bishop. It's a free piece, because if you capture here, then you just get d2. Kasparov will now win more material. So after e captures on d3, we have knight captures on d3, and now knight to e4. We have rook c to e1, attacking the knight, and now bishop captures on a2 with check. Finally, Kasparov grabs this pawn. We have king b2, and now bishop back to d5, just defending that knight. And here, Fabi is just down a full piece, and this is completely lost for him. But it's a blitz game, so he will try to create some tricks. Maybe he can flag Kasparov. Who knows? Anything goes in blitz. So knight to b4. And now comes e6, just defending that bishop. C captures on b6, but now c5. Kasparov sacrifices a pawn to get two connected pawns. So knight captures, pawn captures. Now the two connected pawns are very strong. And rook to e3, preparing to defend the b6 pawn with rook to b3. We have rook to b7, but the pawn cannot be defended. We have rook to b3, and now rook to a6. Kasparov is now ready to win the temporarily sacrificed pawn. Rook to d1, going after the d5 pawn, and now d4. We have rook to e1, attacking the knight, and now knight to d6. And Fabi retreats, king b1. He doesn't want knight c4 to come with check. But now rook captures, rook a captures on b6. We have rook captures with check, and now king retreats to c1. And finally king f6. Kasparov starts bringing the king into the game. We have g5 check, hoping for captures, and then rook e5 check will disconnect the pawns, but Kasparov says no way. He plays king f5. We have rook to e7 by Fabi, going after the h7 pawn, but now knight e4. Rook captures on h7, and now Kasparov in no rush to win material. He prepares a nice mating net. Knight to c3, and now if Fabi plays something like h4, then you have a nice rook b1 check, king d2, and the rook d1 mate. As the pawn and knight are creating a wall, so the white king cannot escape. After knight c3, Fabi starts running with the king, king d2, and now c4. Those pawns are getting closer and closer to the white king. We have rook d7 going after the pawn, and now king e5 defending with rook e7 check, king d5, rook d7 check, and now king back to e5. Here, players repeated once, king to f4 by Kasparov, and now g6. And here, I think Fabi had like 2 seconds on the clock. There is the delay, so it's not really 2 seconds, whereas Kasparov had, I believe, 9 seconds on the clock, and g6 just gives up a pawn, but at least he's trying to make Kasparov think. But Kasparov just grabs the pawn. G3 check, king back to f3, and now rook to f7. Rook to f7 check. King e4, rook e7 check, king d5. We have rook d7 check, and now king c5. We have rook to c7 check, king b5, and now rook back to d7, attacking the d4 pawn. Knight e4 check by Kasparov, king e2, and now king c5. Now if rook c7 check, Kasparov can play king b4 and king c3, guard the pawn from c3. So king to f3 by Caruana, and now knight back to d6. With h4, Caruana starts pushing his passed pawn. Rook f6 check, king e2, and now knight to e4. With rook to e7 attacking the knight, but now knight captures on g3 with check. King e1 with c3 now, and it was in this position that Caruana's time ran out, because there is nothing, well, he only had 2 seconds, and when the delay ran out, his 2 seconds ran out very quickly, as there is nothing he can do here. You can see with c3, Kasparov guards the d2 square, the knight covers f1 and e2, the rook controls the f-file, and rook to f1 will be mate. So there is nothing you can do to avoid it. You can play king d1, but then after rook f1 check, you will have to trade rooks, and now you're in a completely lost endgame where Kasparov has a knight and you don't. But yeah, after c3, I believe his time ran out, or he maybe just resigned, but I do believe his time ran out. And the first win for Garry Kasparov in this match, after struggling for so long, but it was just insane. I really enjoyed. I was following the second day all the games, and it was really intense, because Kasparov outplayed him in both of the rapid games, but he was burning so much time. It's like he's trying to play perfect moves. He's trying to create every game. He wants it to be an immortal game, but Fabi's just playing normal moves, saves time, and then Kasparov just goes into time trouble, and he either blunders or fights for a draw. But Kasparov said after winning this game, he said that he can fight all opponents, but not age. Time is the most powerful opponent none of us can beat, but he still said that today they are going into day 3 of the Chess 960, and Kasparov says that he would not like this match to end without him, grabbing at least one win in the Rapids. So we'll see how that goes. Definitely we're gonna follow it up. But yeah, that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Fiachra Holland and Finn Peters for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing this short coverage of the Chess 960 Championship Showdown, continuing the Capablanca saga, and checking up on your suggestions. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.